So I know we've still got some people trickling in. Just figured we'd kick it off. If you're not using 90 yet, there is a link to sign up. That's also just on our landing or our website. If you go to 90.io, there's a big start your trial button in the top right corner. I'm looking through the names and I think I recognize most people. So welcome back if you've attended a previous session. I know we were just at the EOS conference, so we met a couple of you guys in person, which was great. So good to see everybody again that's rejoining us. Oh, I didn't even change the intro slide here. This is not weekly meetings, this is quarterly.
There we go.
So there we go. But yeah, we'll be talking about quarterly meetings today. Per usual, it's myself, Christine Watts, and then we've also got Jim Haviland here to take us through it today.
Christine, we should give you a little call out because you're coming to us from Costa Rica today.
I am, yes.
Well, I laud you, and I'm jealous of you. So.
Yes, I've been working beachside for the week, but I stepped away into a quiet area. So
part of our work from anywhere principles at 90. So if you're not working from anywhere, let your boss know we work from anywhere here at 90. And you're jealous. So
yes.
I'm in the office.
So hopefully you guys know us, but we'll do a quick intro to myself and Jim here in a minute. We're going to go through really like what the meeting pulse is, jumping into the overview of the quarterly meetings within 90. And then we'll also talk about some coming soon features today. So things like multiple people joining a meeting, merging two issues, and then voting on issues as well. So a couple of those we covered in our last weekly meeting session. I can give you guys a quick update on where those are. And then we'll finish up with a quick IDS. So like I said, there is a live chat in here. Please be posting any questions throughout this session into that area. We'll pick them up either real time or throw them on the issues list at the end, and we'll make sure we hit all of those after our conversation. So I'm Christine Watts, head of product and client success here at 90. So just leading this webinar really to showcase the quarterly meetings feature within 90 and tell you a little bit about where we're going. And then joining me is Jim.
Hi, Christine. Yep, Jim Haviland here. I'm an EOS implementer, but also coach a bunch of companies, including 90, on getting everybody on board with EOS. So I have a lot of great experiences with the teaching of the tools in EOS, and I get to work with all of the implementers all around the world that love 90 and love getting their clients on 90. So I'll bring all that to perspective to this and hopefully help everyone understand, why the features are there and how we see them being used in session.
Perfect. All right. And then jumping right into the meeting pulse, Jim, I'll let you kind of talk through this specific slide about the cadence.
So there's a lot of great research and insight into how we use a meeting pulse within EOS to get all the right things considered in the right time frame. And so there's the 2-day annual meeting. That's an important one because once a year you got to reassess the year past, set up yourself for the year future, and also look at your quarter coming up. So every year, you got that 2-day period where you're going to really dig in, step out of the business, work on the business, not in the business, and get all those figured out. Then every quarter, you have that full day where you really want to focus in, once again, pull out, but just really focus on, hey, how did we do last quarter? What did we learn last quarter? Let's lock in that learning and then really set a course for this next 90 days. And that's when we talk about quarterly pulsing, it's so important because, our brains, our human brains still are focused only on being able to plan effectively for about 90 days. It's about as far out as we can plan, Christine, because we're still like season to season as the animals we are on the planet Earth. So that is really the biggest part of the pulse. It's the most important part. But then we have to keep you on track for those 90 days. We give you your weekly meeting that gives you that really is how we turn procrastination into actual discipline and accountability. So,
and we've got meeting types for all of these within 90. So you can run your 2-day annual, your quarterly, and then your weekly. And then obviously for today, we'll be focusing on that middle quarter 1-day session.
And when we talk to people who are running EOS, the thing that they say that really changes their world is this meeting pulse, is this idea of like, I have these really well understood meetings that I'm going to have, where we do get a lot done. People feel very, very connected to attraction, accountability, communications, all that sort of stuff because of the meetings. And they're timed at the right place where you never feel like, gosh, I wish I had a million more meetings, or we don't meet often enough. It's like just that perfect cadence to get everything accomplished. So a couple points here on meetings. Show me that next bit there.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Turning procrastination into discipline. This is the most important part. Everyone knows, and when I talk to clients, say, I want to do EOS, but I'm not sure if I'm ready yet. I said, okay, here's how we're going to figure it out. You tell me something you want to accomplish, something that's important for you to accomplish the next 90 days. I'm going to call you in 90 days. If you haven't gotten it done, it's now, my friend, because that's one of the things that EOS delivers for you, is turning that procrastination so you can focus on what's urgent and important and what is most important right now. And then make sure you've got a place for everything, the 2-day annual, the 1-day quarterly, the 90 minutes we spend every week as a leadership team, the right interval, the right cadence for making sure the right things get considered, because it helps you relieve yourself of all the tension of, are we dealing with all the right things? Once you can let that go, you can focus on what's really most important right now. And then third thing, so there's just 3 things, I like to break it down to 3s. Dealing with procrastination, making sure you have a place for everything, and the consistency. Christine, I had someone asked me last week, well, why is it so rigid? I said, it's not rigid, it's consistent. So you can stop worrying about it, so that you know that at the end of the week or at the end of the quarter, you got this thing where you're going to go deal with that stuff. How often, Christine, do we say in our weekly meetings, is that this quarter or that next quarter? And just the ability to let go and say, hey guys, this isn't this quarter, but we're going to deal with it. We know we're going to deal with it at that quarterly meeting. Just relieve stress, and that consistency helps us really live in the moment that we need to live in.
I love that. Not rigid, just consistent. I think that's a great way to frame, especially for people on your team that when you're starting EOS are going to be a little more averse to like sitting in a meeting that is so structured like that.
My favorite new thing that I've learned to say, this is not pure EOS, but I say it's, hey, listen, man, I am all about dealing with 2 problems in business: drama and ad hocery. You don't want the drama never helps. And hockery is making up as you go along. You're always going to have some of that, but the more you can take that ad hocery and turn it into a consistent behavior, the further and faster you're going to go.
Definitely.
All right, so a couple things more about this, and this is just the next layer down. With EOS, we always like to kind of give you the overview, my 3 points, and now I'm going to drill down just a little bit. That weekly pulse is all about making sure you have got a sense of what is getting done and when, and that sets you free, because I know that Christine's taking care of what Christine's taking care of, and she knows I'm taking care of what I'm taking care of, and that happens at every part of the meeting pulse. It happens at that weekly meeting, so that I can keep track of what she's working on. We get just enough view of it that we feel comfortable, and we can go focus on what we need to work on. So it improves our efficiency and our peace of mind. We don't have to go start asking around. We want to know that everyone at this level, on the leadership team, or as you get down to the departments, I know what the other people are doing, just enough so I feel confident in it. So every one of these meetings is structured, so I have just enough insight so I know exactly what's going on. I can contribute where it's appropriate, but not get involved when it's not. And we have this notion, this is a genoism that I love. We're staying perfectly connected. We talk about this notion of you've been part of companies where your boss is laying over top of you all the time, and then you're wasting all kinds of energy because you're not trusting someone to go do the things that they need to go do. So you're too connected. And I've been part of companies where everyone's off doing their own thing and we don't know what anyone else is doing. So you're not really connected enough. Staying perfectly connected, that Venn diagram notion of how connected we are within the organization. I feel confident that the right people are doing the right things, that then can go do what I'm charged with. I can stay with things that are in my seat and just do the best I possibly can, and know that everyone else is trusting me to go do that. It helps us avoid those damn ad hoc meetings that suck up so much time and are always a waste. No ad hoc meetings. Try to get rid of all your other meetings, because how often do you think during the week, if you've got good L10s, don't worry about it. Make it an issue. We'll deal with it in the L10. So it's a great way to save time and save focus for everybody during the week, so they can actually get things done and get to the thing we really want to get to: the ability to predict and master the difference between urgent and important, right? We want to reduce all those things that interrupt us, that keep us from being able to focus really on what's most important right now, which is getting through my week and winning my week, getting through my quarter, winning my quarter. That's about as far as I can really reliably predict as a human. Now, Christine, if there are any other species on the call, maybe have a different time span that they can really focus on. But for humans, it's 90 days. It's about as far as you can really predict in reliability. So let's master that urgent and important part of things.
Yeah, and I like how that ties into what you mentioned earlier. You know, you are determining what's urgent and important in that quarterly meeting. You're setting the rocks and you're saying, yes, this is what we commit to. And then that helps all of your weekly meetings knowing where to push the issues, if they go to long term, if they stay and you solve them now.
And so many times I've seen people like, yeah, but I think this is really more important than the other thing. I say, well, but the rest of the team doesn't. You've got an alignment, you disagree, and then you commit, and then you're going to come back to it next quarter. If it didn't work, you come back, you have another crack at it. And that's the beauty of it. That's like, because in a reasonable amount of time, it's not too far out, I know we'll reconsider it, and I trust my team to do the right thing. So
Definitely.
there you go. Always, next level 10, the next quarterly is always just that really close.
All right, and now I'm going to take us into the meetings tool. So we'll jump into 90. If you guys haven't used it before, there's a couple different tabs up here. So like we showed earlier, you've got your weekly meeting, which is probably what you're using most consistently. You can also run your quarterlies and annuals in here. So we'll focus on the quarterly for today. And it works exactly the same way as you would a level 10. So when you come in here, start the meeting up, jump into the session. First area is just your objectives. So everybody's taking that 5 minutes, you know, looking through what you're going to do for the day, kind of that agenda setting. And then once you get into the check-in, you've got those questions that you really want everybody to think through and answer and set the pace for the day. What are you expecting out of the session, you know, and really making sure you're capturing some early issues too.
One of the things we say quite often is if you're running your session still in Zoom, if you're still remote, it's great to not bring 90 up into the Zoom until you've gotten through this part. Have everyone's faces big and bright and looking right at each other. Make that opportunity for connection to happen right there. And then when you get into the data that's really in here, but it's great to have this for whoever's running the meeting to remind everybody what's going on. They don't need to look at this, let them look at each other and connect.
Definitely. Yeah. So what we typically do if we're on Zoom, we pull this up, everybody can see the questions. We're all going to start thinking about it. Then I stop sharing my screen. Hopefully you guys see us in a grid view right now. But that way, when you're actually talking through your answers to these, you're not looking at the big white space. You're actually connecting with somebody face to face, like Jim mentioned. And then you can reshare when you need to start jumping into the rocks for the quarter, because this is obviously what everybody needs to see and be aware of. So at the top here, you can dive into what your goals for the quarter were as it relates to the VTO. So your VTO information is right here as far as what you were trying to hit revenue, profit, and measurables wise. And then once you get down into the rocks, you can go into each of these. Hopefully most of them are already marked as done. If not, you're going through one by one and doing that done or not done check here. And when you're done with that, this little icon up here in the top right gives you your completion rate. So it tells you for your company rocks, here's the real number, 6 out of 7, and your completion rate. And then for all of your rocks combined, so company and all of your individual, you can actually see what's your completion rate and then what's your total rocks done.
And I gotta say, the important part here is to capture everything you've learned. It's great that you got the rock done, but what were the things you learned from this? And make sure you capture those in some way that you can then make sure they become part of the universe for you. So is it a document that has to be created? Is it a cascading message that needs to be sent out? This is a great opportunity as you're going through this, capture that learning so you can then redeploy it throughout the organization and lock it in.
Yeah, and I mean, even as you're doing your new rock setting, it's like, hey, should there be a milestone for add this to our core process? Should there be a milestone for creating that specific document? So you can really start thinking about that as you're planning your rocks for the next quarter too.
That's right, exactly right. I mean, you want to have that in there for sure, because like that's really done. But at the same time, hey, was there anything else we should be doing about this rock? We got it done as we defined it, but how do we make sure that we capture this in every single way? I think it's a great question to ask, and it could create that next thing, it's either to do or maybe another issue that has to be solved. making sure that, hey, let's make sure we got this fixed. You know, this, anything we want to change with process. You know what? Matter of fact, this was hard. Let's go fix that. So good things to make sure that you've learned everything you can learn and accomplish everything you can accomplish.
Yeah. One thing I will call out on here when we're looking at the completion rate, on track does not equal done. So only this done marker means that the rock is officially done. Anything that's on track or off track means not done. I know what we do internally, Jim, you can probably tell me how widespread this is, but if the rock just needs a to-do, okay, there's one thing left on this, all we need to do is this one thing, and then the rock's going to be done. You know, we'll mark it as done for the quarter and give ourselves a rock. It's just a 7-day action item to finish it up. So that's definitely an option.
Here's the thing, you know, scheduling your quarterly isn't necessarily going to land perfectly on the right day either. So giving yourself, you know, being good at predicting and holding yourselves accountable. If you've got a pretty strong team, you can do that. You can say, hey, you know what, maybe and you do this during the quarter, by the way, too, but the rock wasn't exactly what we planned it to be, but we're going to go accomplish this thing. As long as you come to agreement as a team, I teach that's just fine. And then make sure that agree as a team, do we agree it was really done? Did we really get to done on this? And if you all get to agreement, yeah, that's done. As long as that to-do gets done, we're golden. It's going to go on your same team. You're going to see it at the L10, and you'll be able to still hold each other accountable. I think that's just fine, and get it done, because that's really, there's no point if you're that close to not give yourself the thrill of actually getting that rock done.
Yeah. And so once you're done going through all of these, so you go through the company, you go through each person by person, marking any extra ones that need to be marked as done. What you can do is clone any incomplete rocks to your long-term issues list. So what that's going to do is it's going to take any of these rocks that don't have that status of done, so anything that's off track or on track, and it's going to move it to the long-term issues. And you want to clone it there. The reason we created this clone button is instead of, you know, deleting this and moving it over, you really want to have them in both spots, because what's going to happen next is once I clone all of those rocks that aren't done yet to my long-term issues list, now they're in my rock setting section, so I can decide, does it need to be a rock again? Is it just something we need to talk through? You can have that discussion around it, and I can still clean up all of my rocks on this list. So I can go through and archive all of my rocks. This is any status, because I want to have captured that I didn't complete these rocks this quarter. I still want to have them archived. I want to know that it was a priority, it didn't get done. So I'll archive everything at once. And now the list is completely cleaned up. So when we do get to section 6, we can start creating our new rocks.
People ask all the time, should I just roll over the rocks that don't get done? And absolutely not. You got to have the conversation about whether it's still an appropriate rock or whether you want to rethink it, because hopefully you'll learn some things in attempting to get it done. And sometimes things change. I mean, I think we all know this from the last 2 years. Context can change really dramatically, and you need to be able to be resilient. You need to be able to adapt to that. So we move people from quarterlies to monthlies quite often that are running EOS. It's like we can't really predict 90 days out. So let's just get good at figuring out what to do this month. Same thing with your rocks. You want to just like, let's be smart about this, but I want to start the quarter when I get to rock setting, fresh slate. What are the most important things when I look at this next 90 days that I have to get done?
Definitely. When we move into the VTO, all my rocks are cleaned up, obviously. You've got your 90-day. This is the same information we saw on review prior quarter with our revenue, profit, and measurables. So you can go through those, see how you did. Did you hit your goals? Obviously, update these new goals and the date to whatever you want to hit for the next quarter. So hopefully you're setting your next quarterly date and putting that in here already. And then you've also got access to your 1 year and can always click over to the vision slide as well. But typically it goes to traction first because you're really looking at the 90 days in a year. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, so that's absolutely right. I mean, it's a good time to review all of your stuff and ask the question, is this still valid? Do we have to make changes? Is that an issue? As you can see, we got an hour here to review our VTO, but we all got to make sure we're really on board. We all on the same page. We're locked in. We all really agree with what's going on here. It's also worth saying, probably, Christine, that when you start this meeting, it archives the VTO to where it was that day. right?
That's
So
right.
you don't have to worry about it. You can start making changes right now. It's already been archived. You got that forever. That's part of your permanent record. And now you can go in and start making changes or marking things, asking questions, because you just want to make sure, hey, I'm aligning every time I touch this stuff.
Definitely. Yep. So when I go to view archive VTOs, I ran a little test meeting earlier. So I've got one there. And then here's the one that we just saved when we started this meeting. So you do get a little reminder of that right at the objectives page. So a copy of this VTO was automatically saved when you started the meeting. So you can be aware of that. And then if you do make any changes here and you want to save anything as of like what you've done right now, you can always just archive another copy real time.
There you go.
So yeah, like Jim said,
the whole VTO, it's a great time to look at it and make sure you've got everything going on. Especially, I'm helping working with a lot of clients right now that are self-implementers, and we got them reset, but we have a lot of things we're still figuring out. They didn't go through a full implementation, so I'll push them a little bit further every time we get together every quarter. It's like, how about this one? Are we ready to tackle this now? And then have to make it an issue and figure out whether it could be a rock or to do. It depends on how big it is.
Yeah. And that's a great point. Throughout this time, as you're looking at your rocks, even in your check-in, as you're looking at the VTO, you're going to be thinking of issues. If it's not something that's directly related to one of these where you can make it an issue out of that item, just keep using the create button up here on the top right. When you create an issue during this quarterly meeting, it's going to default to a long-term, because the long-term list is actually what we're going to be looking at when we move on to IDS. So if somebody mentions something that's not working in their check-in and you want to record that to talk about it as a team, if you see something on the VTO that you want to dive into a little bit more, feel free to turn it into an issue. It's going to default to long-term for you. All right. Once you're done with that hour in the VTO, you can move on to the EOS tools. Jim, I'll let you speak a little bit to this, because right now in the system, it's really just a grid here so that you can see all of the tools and check things off as they're getting done. And then it's typically up to the company or the coach to decide which one you're really going to dive into teaching wise that quarter.
That's right. So what quite often happens with implementers is, if you've gone through a professional implementation with an implementer, you go through that focus day, vision building 1, vision building 2. And that first quarterly is probably when you're going to first look at this EOS toolbox and start to make a plan as to how you're going to look at these tools going forward. Every quarter, a new tool can be applied, and it's good to have a plan on this. Things change. Maybe you want to go at it. Like quite often, we don't go through the 3-step process documenter during our implementation. That's often a great one to get into, but also really getting into LMA and the 555. So you're ready for quarterly conversations. Depends what your plan is for rolling out EOS to the rest of the organization, but coming with agreement and a plan for how you're going to roll these things out. This just helps you keep track. The tool here just helps you keep track of where you've been, but hopefully you've got you've written down some dates, future quarterlies, what's tool you're going to look at. And typically with my clients, when I ask them to prepare for their quarterly, I said, hey, good time to go back, look through the VTO, look back through your 1 and 3 year goals, see what what issues you might have. And then make sure, and here's the tool I think I'm going to teach. Is there a reason to teach a different tool? And we make sure everyone understands what the tools are, so we have agreement, but let's be responsive to whatever the circumstances are on the ground.
Yeah, and I know we've done it a couple times before, like Colby's on this list, so we'll take the Colby assessment before the quarterly meeting and then have some set time to actually talk through it. So we've done the same thing. You can see all of our names up here. We've got the type coach, Colby. We do the print assessment. So we've done it a couple of times with just different tools. So that's another good one. Whether you're at the annual and use it as like a trust builder, or you want to do, it as a EOS in the toolbox here, you can do that too.
That's right.
Yeah. Great. And I'll show you a quick tip when we jump out of this meeting, as far as if you wanted to customize the section, maybe you already know, hey, we're going to cover the people analyzer and you want to throw, a presentation in there or some sort of training. I'll show you guys how you can actually customize this agenda on the left-hand side here, so you can pull that information in.
Yeah.
So once you go through your EOS tool, you're really going to start with your rock setting. So what are the new rocks we want for next quarter? It takes you to the long-term issues list because this should be the list of all of your ideas, all of the rocks that didn't get done last quarter that maybe need to be reprioritized. It's just the collection of all of your different content and ideas. Hopefully you can go through and prioritize these. So typically what happens is anything that might be a company rock you want to bring to the very top of the list. Maybe individual rocks are right below that. So you go through a sort of period of sorting these out, and then you can dive in and start moving these over to the rocks list. So maybe I want to turn this into a rock. Maybe this one becomes a company rock. And then as I go through and do that for these, I can probably check them off as done as I move them over to my new rocks list here.
Yeah, everything up before this part of the meeting is about teasing out all of the issues you have that could become rocks. So when you looked at your 1-year goals, what's the next thing that has to happen to achieve that part of the 1-year goal? And you've already kind of made it a rock candidate, hopefully, at that point. Hopefully your short-term issues list is almost empty at this point because your very last L10 before your quarterly, that's a great time to clean that up. Use probably your IDS time to get rid of things because you don't have any more meetings left in the quarter, so it can't be. There's no more short-term issue time. So it's like either we are getting rid of it, keep killing combine, so you got almost nothing on that list, and anything that could become a rock or needs to be IDS during the quarterly is on this list.
Definitely. So you can go through this create a rock function as much as you want to. Usually what happens is you're creating the rock first. You can decide if it's a company or not right away. And then you can spend some time, you've got a fair amount of time in this section. Go to the rocks page and actually start thinking through like, what are those end deliverables you want to have? I don't know if you need to build out every milestone or like make every rock, extremely smart, but at least put enough in the title here where the full team agrees on what's happening at the end of the quarter with this item. And then you can get into some of the details. Like Jim mentioned, hey, does this need to be a process? Does this need to be something that's actionable and documented at the very end of it to make sure there's consistency moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. The rocks aren't something that get assigned to you without your agreement, or they shouldn't. They should turn expectations into agreements. And it shouldn't be anything that the team doesn't agree is a good use of your time. The people in this meeting, whether it's a leadership team quarterly, or you get down to the organization, the departments, we all have a certain amount of time we're going to apply to rocks every quarter. This is when you spend that time together, getting enough detail in there so we all agree, yes, that's a good way for Christine to spend her time. That's a good way for Michelle to spend her time when she's not doing the things that are in her seat. And because we're all going to want to support them and then understand what they're working on, so we can ask the questions in the L10. Hey, Christine's that rock really on track? I don't know about that. Convince me, and because I'm doing and do it lovingly because I want to make sure we're all spending our time in the best possible way because it's our time to devote. And no one feels alone. We can all support each other in getting these rocks done if we all understand what the outcomes are going to be.
Definitely. So usually what we do is we end up creating them, checking them off. We pop back over here. Does everybody have the right amount? Is anybody too overwhelmed? We all agree. These are the rocks. And then we even go through and create a to-do. So everybody has a to-do, make rocks smart and set up a meeting with whoever, probably the integrator, if you're doing this at the leadership level, to have that checkpoint, or you can do it during one of your level 10 meetings. But having that to-do to go through and make your rocks smart if you haven't done that yet already, and I can just assign it to everybody on the team here really easily. Now we all have that to-do to go off and make sure this happens in the next week.
It almost always happens the next week. Sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes it doesn't, but hopefully it does.
We had the EOS conference. We had that was our excuse for
Yes.
for not getting it done. But it's important that once again, it's about getting to agreement about how we're going to spend our time. So, if you own the rock, you got to figure out what resources you're going to need, create those milestones. I force all of my teams, I hear it so much. Until you're awesome at rock completion, give yourself 13, that's one a week for the 90 days. Milestones, and they don't have to be things that you're going to do. Assign things to other people on the team. People want to help you, especially if it's a company or department rock. You should have the whole resources of everyone to help get that rock done. if it's a company rock, it's a company priority. It's going to be on the VTO. You're going to talk to everybody about it at the state of the company meeting. As this is one of the most important things we're working on this quarter. So make sure you've understood what resources you're going to need, because you don't want to wait till the last week and go, oh shoot, I'm not done yet. Because that's how we turn this pulse is how we turn procrastination into discipline.
Definitely. So a lot of times you're putting like, here's what my goal, my plan, I'm making it smart in the description area. And then you can use this milestones area for really that project plan that Jim just described. Hey,
Right.
am I the one creating the draft? I know I own this rock, but I can still delegate that out to somebody else. Or is somebody else sharing this first version for me? So you can choose other members of the team. This drop-down list is just anybody that's a user in your account. So they don't have to be on this individual team. And you might end up deciding, hey, this rock is at the leadership level, but it's around onboarding and training. So we're also going to want visibility on the finance team during their level 10 meeting. So this isn't something you have to really build out for every single rock during this meeting, but those are all options to add to the collaboration piece and making sure everybody in the company, not just on this team, is on the same page.
That's right.
And if you don't see milestones there, click on the settings icon and you've got access to them right there. So they're not on automatically. So just in case you don't see that.
It's a free hidden feature. Is that not right, Christine?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So once you're done with your rock setting, you click on IDS and you're right back to your long-term issues list. So I can see those 4 or 5 that I checked off because we did turn those into rocks. So what I'll typically do is just archive those and get those out of the way. And now we can take a look at, hey, here's the real issues, the real things we want to talk about as a team. And you can go through that prioritization process again. So whether it's a drag and drop here, you can right click and move things to the top and bottom of the list, or you can still use that 1, 2, 3 option. So when you select this, you can open it up and your team can just call out what those 3 issues are at a time. So again, you've got a lot of time here. You're probably not going to get through everything. You know, this is a very short long-term issues list for demo purposes. But this is when you can really start diving in and solving some of these items.
How many did we start with in our last quarterly, Christine?
I want to say 150 plus.
I was thinking 150. I think it was 150. Yeah.
Yes.
But we went through keep, kill, and combine like you want to. Yeah. And I think you've got some great things to show later on today, because keep, kill, and combine is important. It's still an important part of how we get down to make sure we're talking about the right issues. So going through and prioritizing them, spending some time on this stuff, saying, right, hey, that's really part of this. You know, trying to make sure you understand your list is an important part of the structure. So you've got some new tools here coming up for that.
Yeah, and another great thing to mention that we went through as well is you're going through keep, kill, combine. Maybe it's also an issue that you don't need to solve at the leadership level or on the specific team you're on. So if you guys are running departmental quarterlies, we ran into a couple items where we just switched the ownership of the team. So if there's any situations like that, you can move this to a different team if it's not something that you guys need to talk about individually.
Yeah, cleaning this up, you know, it's an ongoing discipline. I mean, and we give you a bunch of tools here in 90 to go get this stuff done, but it's really about making sure you're only considering, you know, it's 180 minutes, but they're 180 really expensive minutes. This is your leadership team. Make sure you're spending them wisely and really focus on things that are most urgent and important. And the better you get at that, you know, the better for everybody.
Yep. And this is also it's probably like one of the more important sections, obviously. You know, you're having some real intense conversations most likely, and it's also towards the end of the day. So one thing to call out is we didn't put in set breaks in here for you. So it's up to you guys. You know your team best. When do you need to pause the time and go off, take a 10-15 minute break, have lunch together, whatever it is. I'll show you how to customize the agenda after we jump out of this meeting. Maybe you want to like put breaks in there for yourself so they're planned during the day, but just be mindful of that and make sure you use your timer and actually stop things and slow down at, you know, throughout the whole day process.
That's right. I mean, it's really time and energy management are important when you're talking about an all-day session. You want everyone to be focused and crisp the entire time. So, you know, learn your team, learn each other, break together, because you want everybody completely focused and when they can be. So But IDS is like, you've already got everything figured out, and now you're most clear and most able to really solve problems because you know what you have to get done this quarter. So it's like this order is important. This order works. Really do this. I know some people try to move rocks and IDS in different places, but the fact of the matter is you want to make sure you've got really good solid rocks that has long-term impact. And and sometimes you get a little bit in between, like, is this really an IDS or is it a rock? I don't know. You can create more rocks out of IDS, but get good rock set first. And they're like, well, that sounds like a little rock, right? How many times do we end up just signing Michelle a little rock?
All the time. Every quarter.
Right. It's a little too big to be a to-do, but it's like a little rock. It's little, Michelle.
Yeah. Last thing I'll call out in the IDS session is the view tool button. Oftentimes you're going to have an issue. It's around a person. You want to look at the accountability chart, whatever it is. When you click view tool, you can go to process, you can go back to your VTO, your rocks list, whatever you need. And that way you're still keeping time in this IDS session. So that's not changing, but now I have full access to my accountability chart where I can come in and talk about this position and edit it real time from within here. So really encourage you to use this as you're talking about issues that you want to pull up other items for. Maybe there's an issue around, making your scorecard better and getting down to the right measurables. Whatever it is, you've got your different tools accessible right there and still within your meeting function.
I always take my clients back to the accountability chart early on, especially because when they're still working on it. And like, I've asked them to do it to prep for the meeting to find those RPRS issues, but I'm going to ask them the questions live. Is this still the right structure? Are there any RPRS issues? Does everyone have enough time to do the job well? And until they're good at it, they're almost always coming up with, well, now that you mention it. So you'll need to be able to find those tools, and figure out what you're really looking at there. And you can, once again, create issues from all those places.
Yep, exactly. And all you have to do is click back on the relevant section that you want to go back to when you want to jump back. So I just clicked on IDS and now we're right back here. So this works the same way as the level 10, where as you check things off, as you're creating rocks, creating to-dos, whatever you're doing inside this meeting is being saved. That includes if you're like taking any free form notes during like your check-in or anything like that, where you just want those details saved with the meeting specifically, you still have that option there. And then when you move into next steps, you're going to see, hey, here's all the new to-dos we created. They're tagged as new. It's going to give you a reminder, have you scheduled the state of the company? So if you don't already have those planned out in advance, maybe somebody needs to take a to-do in order to schedule that. So again, just use the create button to go ahead and set that up here.
Don't procrastinate. Schedule it now. You're all right there. That's an expectation the company has. Turn it into an agreement and get that going.
Yes. I've learned my lesson there a bit, and I was scheduling them after the quarterly ended, and it was everybody's schedules are already full. It's hard to get it in the next week. So we're actually going like 1 to 2 quarters out in advance. You already know when your quarterlies are going to be most likely. So go ahead and get that on the calendar as early as you can too.
It's because the rest of the company's waiting for that direction to go do their thing. So we had our state of the company today. Next week we'll have departmental quarterlies, because that's how we're going to set departmental rocks and get everyone, make sure that, it's good, because obviously we're fully cascaded all the way down the organization. So.
Yep. And then you've got your conclude area. So it gives you 3 things to report back on. So kind of thinking back to that check-in, were your expectations met? How are you feeling after the day, the conversation? And then obviously giving the session rating, which you can put in here just like a normal level 10 meeting. And then you've got the same concept within here where you want to send that recap email. So as soon as you press finish, that goes out to everybody on the team. And that includes a lot of those basic details. I can click into a past one. So the rocks you created, the to-dos you created, issues you solved, and then obviously any cascading messages that were going out. So also got your ratings and then how long you spent within the meeting in there too.
Yeah.
So there you go. Last thing I know I mentioned I would show you guys is customizing the meeting here. So typically for a leadership team, you're probably going to want to stick to the schedule. Like I said, if you wanted to add in any breaks here, maybe you want to do that and just have a set, 15-minute time frame when you might be needing it. I know we kind of just do ours ad hoc. Everybody kind of just, read the mood of the room and know when you're switching to a new section if you need to take that time. So you can either pre-plan it or do it that way. Another thing to consider is your departmental quarterlies. So if I go to a different team, maybe I want to change the VTO. Really, this is just going to be a review from whatever the leadership team set for marketing. So maybe we'll jump it down to 30 minutes. So there might be some things you want to play with there.
Right.
Jim, I don't know if you have any like real specific areas you want to speak to as far as the departmental quarterlies go.
Well, no, I think you really called out the most important parts here. When you get down to department, more than likely you're not spending the full day. You don't have the same number of things to review typically, and you're really taking direction, building your racks, and you're based on the priorities of the leadership team. That's how you should organize it. So a lot of these things can be much shorter. Half days are very common at the next tier down of departments to how you spend your day. Just figuring out how you want to do it. And if you're working with an implementer, the implementer can help you figure out how to prioritize those things. And it's also just like with level 10 meetings, quite often when you get into the departmental level, there's other applications outside of 90 that you want to bring into it. So if it's marketing, you want to bring in whatever you're using for a reporting engine around that and really look at those things, because that could be a source of issues in racks. Like, hey, how did we do on our, like for instance, HubSpot? And you can put the entire URL in there. It brings it right into the meeting so everyone can see the same thing when you're sharing it. It's a great way to make sure, hey, we're all at the same source, we're all seeing the same thing, and we can get to agreement.
Yeah, it's especially great, the marketing team, sales, whoever it is, like has that specific tool, their specific area where like to them, it's very important to dive into those details. So I wouldn't fight against it, to Jim's point. Like let's talk about the things that are relevant, and it's probably whatever those specific, operational items that they're using.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, the EOS purity is really almost exclusively about the leadership team, but being smart about it. The outcome we're trying to look for is we're trying to tease out all the issues and all the natural places where we expect to find them. And if your department runs off a particular tool like marketing and HubSpot, it's, you should hopefully have some reports in there that are part of your quarterly review, part of what you look at, like how did we do last quarter in opens and clicks? How did we do last quarter with our, social engagement? And hopefully you got something you can look at and go, yep, let's make sure we talk about that. Great to have it ahead of time so you can add it to the leadership team, to the issues list, but looking at it together is still a great discipline.
Yeah. All about fleshing out the issues.
It's all about that.
All right. So I think that really takes me through everything. I'm going to go over really quick these coming soon features and just give you a quick status update on most things, because I know it might be a little redundant for most people. Coming soon to meetings is multiple people joining. So we're still going through internal testing. I just had a meeting with our dev team leads today, and we should be getting it out into beta in about 2 to 3 weeks. So we just have two things left to finish up. And essentially what this function is going to let you do is one person starts the meeting and then anybody else can join that meeting. So it'll be for level 10s first, but I thought it was still relevant for this phone call too, because the next thing we'll do is take that into quarterly meetings, take that same function into annual meetings, and keep going throughout every meeting type that we offer, so that it doesn't matter what kind of meeting you're running. Anybody can join, collaborate, add issues at the same time, take notes, and see the different items within their real time.
Yeah, I mean, becoming Zoom companies, work from anywhere companies, this has become a critical issue for people. Where, I know Christine and her team have been working very hard on it, making it a great feature that works really well. So hopefully you'll be able to not bring out 90 into the meeting, just leave it as something that everyone's looking at, and you're just following along the agenda.
Definitely. Next one is merging two issues. So still on our list at a pretty high priority. So this should still be coming soon. Really, we mentioned a couple times in this call, you're going through that keep, kill, combine process. So obviously keep, it's on the list. Kill, you're deleting it or checking it off. Combine is really the only thing we're missing. So we're going to have the ability to merge two issues. So it essentially put the titles, the description, all of the content within there together so that you've got that combine option.
Yeah, and which would be great. I mean, it is certainly one of the parts of whiteboarding that it still is beloved by many people, is the combine process. But the thing we've got that you don't have on the whiteboard is the cascade function. So, hey, let's deal with that in the finance meeting. Yeah, you don't do that on the whiteboard. So where's the finance whiteboard? Yeah.
And then issue voting. So I know I had coming very soon because that's pretty imminent. Merging is pretty soon as well. This one's probably a little bit later, so probably like over a month out. Still worth mentioning because it's going to be something on short-term and long-term issues, just the ability to go in and vote. So somebody chooses the number of votes that each user gets. You all get to join the same meeting. So then when you get to the issues page, you have 6 votes. I can vote for one thing 6 times, or I can divvy them out to different issues. And then once everybody's done voting, you can go ahead and sort them. So the most urgent ones go right to the top. So that's going to be an option in addition to the 1, 2, 3 method, the drag and drop method. So the different things that we mentioned today still exist. They're not going away. This will just be one other option that you can turn on if you want to.
Yeah, and I teach all my teams to use rank scoring at the beginning of the titles, because it's just, just be clear about what you want out of your meeting, and then you can talk about it later on. But certainly big issues list, this is a big problem. If you really can't talk about it open and honestly, and you need to vote on them, you probably need some team health stuff. But
yes,
good time.
All right. And then hopefully you guys have been posting in the chat. So if you have any questions, I'll take another second and say, put them in there. We're happy to go back and cover anything about quarterly meetings or whatever you want to talk about. Let us know. So we'll go through the issues list, tackle those one by one. I will be sending out a recording of the webinar and bringing in some of the marketing team to help me with the management of this as far as advertising and getting you the recording, next day or next week instead of so long like last time. But we'll still be running these monthly. So maybe at the end of this, we should also put up a little poll as far as what people want to cover next time too.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. So let's go to my issues list. I don't know if I'm in the right company. I probably need to switch.
It's so easy to switch between companies and teams, Christine.
Just like that. New company, new team, and I've got my issues list here. So that's great. Are these ones you just created, Michelle?
Yep, those are them.
Okay, cool. So we'll just go through these one by one. If you've got anything on top of these or more comments, Michelle's still there in the chat, so feel free to write in, ask follow-up questions, or let us know if you're solved. So here we go. We've got designated rocks as departmental and finance, and the owner is the CFO who's on the leadership team. When we do this, they show up as the company rock, which is not what we're going for. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So they only want it to show up as departmental, and then they want it to show up on the leadership team, not in the company rocks area, but still on that individual person's name. So that's actually something we really need to update. So I'm glad you brought that up. Right now, if this toggle is on, if it's at the leadership level, it will show up on the company rocks. We are going to be updating the rocks page. We're actually doing like really a full rewrite to make it faster and add in some additional features like what you mentioned. So instead of it being, hey, this is a departmental or company rock for every single team it's on, you'll actually be able to specify, hey, this only applies to the product office hours team, or this only applies to leadership team, and it doesn't need to be a departmental rock on that team. So you'll have a little bit more flexibility there. That actually should be coming this quarter, which is great. Rewriting this page is a pretty big priority for us. So great item to bring up for us to address. So hopefully that'll solve your issue.
And certainly if we didn't solve it, or let us know, let
Yes.
us know we've solved it. But yeah, coming soon.
Coming soon.
Good call.
I wish I could tell you a workaround right now. We don't have one, unfortunately. But yeah, should be out in the next, I would say, 2 to 3 months.
Okay.
Let's see. Would love to be able to assign the team for the rocks. I'll give a heads up. Let me think through this. Give us a heads up as other teams are setting their rocks to know. Oh, maybe we're talking about milestones too, like, hey, a notification that's active, this rock was created, you're a part of it, is maybe what we're going for here, you think?
Yeah, Michelle, maybe have them, we'll bring them into the meeting so they can clarify.
Yeah.
Let's be super clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the idea of notifications. I know for us, we typically go through our company rocks at the state of the company. So there is that kind of like full team awareness around those. But then when you get into individual rocks, it's primarily the owner who's responsible for like communicating with the team who's going to be involved in the completion of their rock. So this probably gets into that a little bit. Rather than having like an instant notification go out when something's assigned, which is definitely something we'd love to, look forward to in the future for instant notifications too.
Can Laura join the meeting?
Yeah, Laura's chatting back to let us know.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Let's chat about the toolbox in the meantime.
Yeah.
Do you have the flexibility to add other tools to the toolbox? Right now it's set standard, not right now. We can't add links or any other info to connect it to anything, but love the feedback and we'll definitely put it on the list and share it. It's definitely something that's been on my mind.
Yeah, the toolbox is the pure EOS IP property at this point. So we're certainly finding other ways of making sure that all the right tools in front of you are front and center for us. But we're happy to hear suggestions.
Yes. Yeah. And anything that we really like physically cannot do, like this is a licensed product, so it has to be the specific EOS toolbox, we will take and actually share with them too. So even if we say, hey, we can't do that right now, or we can't do that because of that restriction of being the EOS licensed software, we do still share back with them. So this would definitely be one of those scenarios where it's that specific toolbox. It's not really supposed to be adjusted, but we'll definitely let them know.
Yeah, cool.
And Christine, Laura did chat back.
Okay.
So she's saying, I guess in times when they have other people helping them with the rock, sometimes it's a larger project and will consume other people's time. Of course, there's one owner, but a team working on the rock.
Yeah, I would definitely consider using milestones in that scenario because the milestone still shows up on that person's My 90 page. So when I go to My 90, I can see all of the milestones that I'm responsible for. So I do have some pretty instant awareness around that. And then for each milestone, I can also click on the rock and see, even if I don't own that rock, I can still see the bigger thing that I'm contributing to there. Plus, if you have those hitting your to-do list at the same time, that might be like that trifecta of things that you need. So it's not just on their My Milestones page, but you're actually having it hit the team to-do list as well.
Yeah, I mean, it just is so with that, we give you the tools to be able to coordinate all of that, but it's still a matter of, you have to have the internal communications, muscles to get to agreements on those things. So like, hey, let's, hey, I really want your help with this. Here's how I'm designing it. Make sure you get to agreement and understanding before you go too far. But there is this resource allocation question. I'm sure for, as part of this, we don't have a great resource allocation capability set yet. Right, Christine? But
yeah.
To
like see the percentage of time somebody could dedicate to a certain area based on like their overall workload and things like that, right?
Yeah, so it's really dependent upon you pushing back and raising issues. Are we going to talk about the issues sending today or no, another time?
Yeah, we can chat about it now, because this is definitely one of those things that really ties in, because if somebody has a milestone, they're falling behind, they're not going to get it done. Hopefully that is going to hit that issues list because you are looking at your rocks every single week. So if it is something where it's like, hey, we're talking about it on this team, but we really need marketing feedback on why XYZ isn't happening, you can send the issue to that team and still have visibility here, and they can talk about it, solve, and send it back. So it gives you that kind of cross-team collaboration when you're in a spot with a rock where maybe there's multiple teams involved, multiple stakeholders.
Yeah, and it just and you keep it well organized and well, so those conversations all there, because the descriptions will go on as long as you want them. They'll just keep going and going and going. So use the tool to keep track of everything you're talking about and to get to that agreement side of things with everyone on the team.
Yeah. So that's hopefully a couple quick tips. Milestones, making sure the owner has that awareness. Maybe you're scheduling, something with that person or sending them a Slack every couple weeks to check in. But hopefully, ultimately, you're not doing any ad hoc meetings and it's really just hitting the issues list if it becomes a problem based on the agreements you set at the beginning of the quarter.
Yeah, if you've got a more specific, use case you want to talk through, let us know, because it's always good learning for us.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any details for the listed items in the toolbox? 5 leadership abilities, Colby. Great question. We don't have anything as far as an internal resource goes. Would love to have that for you, but a lot of these resources are kind of spread out, I guess, in the EOS universe, you could call it. So something like Colby, you probably want to go to the Colby site. That's a test that you actually purchase through them and need an account for your company and things like that.
A lot of implementers will have access to, they're also Colby certified, or they'll know someone who is Colby certified. So it's a great reason to just at least engage. And any implementer will happily help first and introduce you to somebody there.
Great point.
5 leadership abilities, that's you want to go to How to Be a Great Boss for that one. That's a great book for that. Or once again, it's all of the implementers are practiced at these things.
Yeah, I'll see if we are allowed to put together maybe a resource center where we just have links out to the different places for each tool. Maybe that's a good solution in the meantime.
Yeah, it's good.
So I'll definitely look into that and see what's possible as far as that goes.
Yeah, because EOS has real resources for these things that are approved. So.
Yep. Give myself a to-do.
That was so easy, Christine.
So easy, almost easy.
Almost easy. Build a great company.
Let's see. So you've made the onboarding rock, company rock on the leadership team as well as the finance team. Will this show as a departmental rock on the finance team? If so, should it? So this is kind of back to that first question. Yeah, if you toggle it on as a departmental rock, a company rock, it'll show up that way on any team you end up creating it. I know that's not always ideal. Some people like it that way because if it's prioritized in one place, maybe it should be prioritized in multiple places, which is probably what the initial logic was behind that. But I know people need a little bit more customization there. So definitely getting to having that customization in the near future.
And you can put it as a department rock on multiple departments.
Yeah, so it has to be, if you turn it on as a departmental rock, it'll go in as a departmental rock no matter what other teams you put it on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, this is a good question. So for teams that aren't ready for a full quarterly pulse meeting, what would you suggest, Jim? Should they do the semi-annual or anything like that?
Listen, purity is quarterlies and there's reasons for that, but it's better than nothing to do it in, trimesters or semi-annual. And all the software will support all of that. Because when you create a rock, it automatically goes out 90 days, but that's not necessarily when your quarterly happens. So just being aware and being intentional about when you're going to get rocks done and when you're going to look at this again and where everyone has to get everything done by, that's great. Certainly, we lived through this last year with lockdown, where most people running EOS changed their schedule to something different. Mostly it was, we're going to do things, we're going to meet more often. So it does work to change your schedule. It does change, having a different pulse. And sometimes people, I have this with clients all the time where they aren't mature enough. They can't set aside enough time to be dedicated to a full day every quarter. So we'll do, a half day quarterly because I think that's better than nothing. So do the half-day quarterly, or we're just going to spend a little time looking at the last quarter, setting some new rocks, a little bit of IDS, just to reset everyone's mind, and then we'll do a more complete quarterly next quarter, where we look at the VTO and we reconsider the accountability chart and all the other stuff. So
That's a great point.
But being intentional about it, but you want to make sure you're moving forward all the time. And rocks are an important part of making sure that you're actually making progress towards your long-term goals. And so quarters are best, 3 times a year, twice a year, better than 0 times a year. But keep making sure you're moving forward, and you have an agreement that these are the important things to get done by this date.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting because when I first read this question, I was thinking, for teams, they're probably meaning a non-leadership team level. And in that case, it's a little bit more interesting. But as a leadership team, oh my gosh, yeah, definitely do, at least a partial day session. I remember, Michelle and I have been with 90, since the very, very beginning, and like the early startup scrappy days, you might have missed a quarter or something like that. And I just remember when we finally got to like every single quarter, no matter what, this is happening, how many conversations did we have where it was like, how have we not been doing this the whole time? We feel better. We feel like we know the direction of the company. We feel like just the way it makes you feel if you skip a quarter is so tough, like no matter what your situation is.
Yeah.
At least at the leadership level.
Yeah. But like, below leadership level, certainly everything is negotiable. It's about making the company run better. Quarterly makes the most sense, but if you have other needs and you can rationalize it, just developing disciplines is a good first step.
Yeah. All right. And then would you recommend changing 1-year traction, especially, okay, so this is kind of getting into the VTO, like would you shorten that time frame essentially?
Yeah, I mean, so purity around looking at the VTO and the components of it that are smart, right? The 10-year target, the 3-year picture, the 1-year plan. Purity says, and why with a quarterly we go to the traction side, is you're really mostly concerned with what this quarter is going to do to get us to our 1-year goal. You're not really rethinking your 3-year picture or your 10-year target. That said, when things really go into chaos, you do what's most appropriate to make the business run well. So, hey, how much, we're in this chaos, whatever it is, pandemic, social unrest, whatever it might be, just figuring out what time frame makes sense that I can actually be predictable. Because a lot of my clients just said, you know what, we're not going to make 1-year predictions right now. We have our 1 year, we'll look at this, we'll judge ourselves against that, but we'll do it gently. But we're just going to try to focus on our quarterlies because there's too much chaos to be reliable with our 1 year. And then just accept it. When we get to the end of the year, it's like, how do we do? Well, considering, we did pretty good. Or, you know what, this is the things we could do better. But asking yourself every quarter, what can we do to move towards our 1-year goal as it was, is still valid, unless those 1-year goals are completely invalid now. There's things that have dramatically changed. And it's okay to say, you know what, that's no longer a 1-year goal. We all agree that makes no sense this year. Let it go.
Right.
And as long as you've got agreement with the team, it's not pure, but it's good. It's progress. And we're really, what the most important thing here is making sure you've got agreement.
Yeah. And I remember, last spring is just like when so many of these conversations were happening, so many companies I talked to were like, we are just setting monthly rocks. Like, we don't know what is happening right now.
Yeah.
And a lot of implementers like really stepped up and said, hey, if you need like free coaching services, if you need help, like I'm here for you. And I think, it was a very unique scenario where like literally all of us, every single business was going through the same thing of not knowing what was happening. But if you run into that, like just internally with whatever your form of crisis is at that time, I think you might find like a coach would definitely be willing to step in and help you out through that.
Always. Yeah. I mean, you can get a 1 hour help first, moment with me anytime. And most implementers are the same way. It's like, hey, let's get you moving forward. That's the best thing. And if it feels like it has value, then you can hire me to go do something. But anytime I'll step in and give anybody an hour to help them figure it out. So Yeah, I did lots of those kind of coaching sessions, even people that I wasn't coaching and was never going to coach. It's like,
Right.
hey man, I know you guys are struggling. How can I help? We got all these things. Let's do an IDS session. Let's break it down. You know, we've got a discipline for this, and you know, go man, go. Make something good happen in the world.
So I love this question. I think it kind of ties into this next question too. Yeah, I love the feedback on the rocks page, especially since we're getting ready to go tackle that. I'll tell you a couple things that I want to change. One, absolutely want to have these titles wrap down. Another thing that I don't like, which I'm sure it might resonate with a couple of you guys, is when I press edit, everything gets pushed down so far. So I totally hear that feedback. That's one of the things that I'm really hoping to update. So I just want to change this due date. I can just, click on it and change it instead of having to open it up and adjust it and save it and things switching around. So definitely looking to get better with that. We're actually having a whole UI UX firm come in and do an audit. So a lot of those little things like that, where it's not broken, but it can definitely be better, are hopefully going to be addressed definitely throughout the rest of this year. So yeah, definitely want to get these text wrapping. And I also love the feedback of that second comment where when this becomes, if I'm turning this into an issue, it's actually going to pull in the description of that item. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. I know when these become to-dos, the description does pull in. And it actually links back up. We have it updated now where if I change the title of the to-do or the due date, it will update the milestone as well, which is something we just launched, about a month ago to really help out with that to-do and milestone linking. But I love the idea of the description being included and making sure that that information text wraps.
I like to hear people are using milestones that specifically, and I'll be curious to see whether they changed the icon for saving it from the floppy drives.
Yes, very old school. And I don't think we really use it anywhere else. So definitely another one of those like little inconsistencies.
I'm old, I appreciate it.
Yes. So let's see, I think I addressed this one too. Can milestones attached or noted which rock is part of it, because it gets lost in the to-do list. So this is part of the update we did about a month ago, I want to say. So now I'll actually go show you what the format looks like. Here, we'll create a new milestone for it. So when this becomes a to-do, it'll look like this. So it'll say that it is a rock, just so you know, or what's the title of it? Yeah, the title of the rock is testing milestones. And then the description or the title of the milestone is to do new.
And the description would come through.
Yeah, exactly. So let's put that into and see how this works. New title of, let's make this a little more clear. Title of rock. All right, now let's save everything and see what happens. So now we've got the rock, the title of the rock, the to-do, the new title of the milestone right there, and then the description of that milestone pulls into the details area. So that is how all of the formatting should be now, where you have rock, title of the milestone, and then the description right in there. And then the due date should line up with exactly what that milestone due date is.
Yeah, and I think we went over it quickly. We want to go back to the my 90 and show how you link back to the rock when you're looking at.
Yeah, so then here's that new one I just created. Yeah, so you can open it up and you've got the description right there, or you can click on the little rock icon and it shows you which milestone in the rock as a whole that you're working on.
That's slick. I love it.
And then, of course, if you want to change the owners of these, you can just switch those real time right there by clicking on the person. All right, good milestone feedback. We really like to see if milestone status is done, not done, along with other graphs within my 90. This is a current feature. It's not. I love the idea of having like a rock completion rate, not just, hey, I have 10 rocks and 5 of them are done, but like, how far into this specific rock am I done? Yeah, so that's definitely something that we're working on. Don't have it out quite yet. Really looking to incorporate some more items like that into Dash, which is a dashboard reporting area that we're building out, and even having a status in Dash where you actually see, okay, the rock can be on track, off track, or done, but it can also be behind. So I've got a milestone, it's not done yet, and it's past due. So that's a great indicator where it's behind. So we are looking to build some things like that.
You want to show the graphs that are in my 90 now? Because I showed someone at the conference, they'd never seen them before. They're like, what?
Oh, yeah. So within here, just scroll down on your My 90 page and you've got to-dos completed. You've got your rock statuses right here. So this is, again, another area where it'd be really cool to have that behind status so you could see real time, even if something is marked on track, off track, if there were any that were behind. And then you can also do other chart types. So advanced pie chart, you can do grouped vertical bar chart if you want to see all of your teams at once. So you've got a couple different options within here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. All right,
There you
cool.
go. Good call out. I always forget about the My 90 charts. I'm like, oh yeah, of course, they're right there, front and center.
Well, you know, it's it's just very, you know, people just keep getting, you know, they don't there's this, it's like a little Easter egg in there for people.
Yeah. And then this is just a dummy one that I created. So we'll delete that. All right. Does that take us through all the questions, Michelle?
That's everything.
Genius.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining. If you want to reach out, feel free to touch base. Both Jim and I's emails are the same. It's just our first name at 90.io. If you're not a user yet, again, I think everybody is. You can sign up, obviously. But appreciate you guys joining. Like I said, we'll be doing a little bit more marketing and promotion around this. So feel free to invite your teams or anybody else you know that uses the software I think would benefit from a session like this. So thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.